Welcome, everyone. My name is Sarah Ray from the Bloomfield Public Library. We're excited about our kickoff program tonight with Liberty Bank. This is going to be the first program of 4 that we'll have. Tonight's topic is financial fitness, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Pam.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. And thank you all for taking the time to come tonight and to start in this financial banking series. I'm really excited about it. So, if during the presentation at all you have any questions or want to get into a little more detail on one of the topics, please put your questions in the chat. And if Sarah thinks it should get added in, we'll start talking about it then. Otherwise, we'll save them all to the end. But, I don't mind if this is interactive. So just feel free to write a question. Tonight's program is going to be on basic finances and kind of how to get started and see where you're at. I like to think of it like whenever you're starting something new, say you're going to go on a diet, you write a food journal for a few days to see where you're at, or if you want to start a new position at work or a job, or start a new business, you start writing down and looking at what the current situation looks like, what you have to do to get to where you want to be. And the same thing is true with your finances. So we really have a lot of control over our finances. And a lot of times, people that I come in contact with will say, "Oh, I just am stuck. There's nothing I can do," or "Everyone in my family has had this situation," or "I have 6 kids that I have to put through college, so I have no financial hope." That like different things. But really, we can do small things all the time to try to help our current situation. And there are a lot of tools out available to us now. So hopefully tonight I can give you some ideas and things that we can build on in the rest of the upcoming series. So the first thing is, the number one great step is that you guys are here and you're learning some new things. And that right away is a great step in the right direction. The next thing is, that we're going to talk about tonight is how to get organized to make those changes or to increase the programs that you're currently working on or goals you currently have. We'll come up with some ways to make a plan. It's always, I was just talking to someone at work about, something with their job, and was telling them the best way to improve it is to make a plan. And I think, that's true with everything, right? Just if you can have some kind of plan, it doesn't seem as daunting or as challenging. There's steps that you can do to make things happen. So it's always good to do that. And, we're going to just work on improving a little bit each day. And this class won't make you all go out and be financial whizzes, but it'll give you hopefully a little bit of some knowledge that maybe you didn't have in the past. So the first thing I like to tell people to do with their financial fitness, or to start on their financial journey, or even to organize their current journey, is to get organized. So many people I come in contact with, maybe one small thing that they forgot to do or didn't do, or a spouse was always doing, and they didn't know how to, really had a big impact on their finances. So, getting organized with all of your important documents and papers and accounts that you currently have is really important before you can make some changes or additions to your current situation. And the first thing that we come in contact with a lot in the banking world are tax returns. Just knowing where your tax returns are, having them in a safe file somewhere, for 4 or 5 years back, so that if you need to pull them out, you can. It won't be a really hard thing for you to get. A lot of people now like to keep a file on their computer instead of a paper hard copy. Some people like to do both, but just somewhere where you know where your tax returns are and you can easily access them is important, because sometimes things pop up and you need a copy of your tax return. For example, if you want to be a new home buyer and you want to get the great program in the state of Connecticut, that with the Department of Housing and CHFA, you need to show 3 years of tax returns in order to get that mortgage from a time to own, which is, a really great down payment assistance grant that you can get in the state. So making sure you know where that is. And another thing too with your tax returns, if you haven't filed them, and a lot of people maybe didn't file taxes because they only earned a little bit of money, and they said, well, I won't owe anything. It's not necessary for me to legally file. It's still important if you file, and you can file for free if you haven't yet with Vita sites across the state. And to find the closest one to you, it's 211. You can just call 211. And I know tax season's done, but some of the sites still have people available. I know the Village does, the Village for Children and Families, to do tax returns. And it's really good to go back and just do those and have them ready. One time I had a really young, nice couple that was applying for a mortgage, and they were fairly newly married, and the husband had never filed tax returns. He had his own small business. He really wasn't making much income, so he just didn't feel the need to file his taxes. And they were going to be purchasing a home, so it really set them back, because he had to go back and do 3 years or 4 years of tax returns. So they couldn't get the original home they wanted because the seller wasn't willing to wait. So just little examples. We do a lot with small businesses, or people who just start and want to do like a little side business. And a lot of times you need your tax returns for a loan you may need. So anyway, make sure you have that organized. The next thing is to go back and look at your retirement accounts you may have had and have those organized. So, a lot of times people maybe worked at a job, their first job, for maybe 10 years or so, and there maybe was some type of retirement benefit. Maybe there was a small pension or a type of retirement account. Maybe they had a small 401k. And a lot of times people then move on to their next careers and jobs and forget about those old accounts and don't even think about it. And maybe they moved and they're not getting annual statements. So, doing a good research of any retirement accounts you may have put into, and keeping those in a file, so that when you do go to retire, you have all that information really handy, and you get everything you're entitled to. And that's why it's another thing is really important to go to SSA, Social Security, SSA.gov, and just look at your current. You can pull up your current Social Security statement, how much you're entitled to, projected, and or if you're currently receiving Social Security, and just look and make sure everything's accurate. It will give you an estimate of it'll show how much income you made in the past years, which is, your Social Security is based off of. So if something's wrong on there, you have time to contest it. So it's really good to also go to make sure you have your account with SSA.gov. They used to send paper statements to everybody, but they don't do that anymore. So you have to go online and open your account. It's very simple. I just checked mine the other day. So doing that, maybe printing one out just so you have it on hand and keeping it in your retirement account file is really helpful. And then looking at any of your bank accounts, if you have a current 401k, having all of that information handy. It's funny, a lot of times people, because on your bank statement or anything that comes in, it doesn't have your account number on it anymore, right? It just has the last couple numbers. So sometimes people don't even remember what their bank account number is, but just having all that information handy in another file is really important. Seeing how much you have in your accounts. I have right now, it's like breaking my heart. I have three people we have at Liberty, individual development accounts. So it's like a savings account for individuals to save if they're saving for an asset, and then the bank matches it. And I have three people who were in a program and they have, substantial, like over $1,000 in their accounts. And they have, I guess, forgot about it. I can't get a hold of them. They maybe have moved. And after so much time, if you have a bank account and there's been no activity in it, that money gets escheated to the state of Connecticut. So, here's a person who probably forgot they saved 4,000 plus dollars, and maybe they forgot about it, or didn't want to be in the program any longer, or never got out, and the money is just sitting there. So making sure you look at all your bank accounts, you've made a deposit recently or you've kept them active. A lot of times we maybe open an account for certain something we're saving for. Don't forget about it, because the bank will try to reach out, will do everything they can to contact you, but if they don't get a hold of you, technically all that money has to get turned over eventually. So just keeping it organized and knowing what you have is so important. And if you think maybe some money of an old account, you can also go to the state of Connecticut's website and look at Name It and Claim. I think it was called Name It and Claim It, and look and see if you have any money right there, and you can go through a process through the state to get that back. So, another thing to get yourself organized is just keeping your receipts, especially for home improvements. But having just a file, even if you don't feel like being organized with that, just a file that's labeled receipts, throwing all that in there in case something breaks or goes wrong. Many times you may purchase something and then a month later something happens with it, and that can still be under warranty. I know my son was telling me he bought something from Costco months ago and it broke, and Costco has some warranty. As long as he had the receipt, he can bring it back and get it replaced. So I never even knew that, but if you don't have the receipt, you're out of luck. So just keeping those somewhere. So if you have to dig through and find it, that can save you a lot of money. And instead of having to replace things that you don't need to. Insurance is another big thing that we want to review frequently. I don't know how many of you have had your insurance policies renew recently, either your homeowners or your renters or your auto insurance. But all insurance from has gone up recently, and there's like some flux in the insurance market. So going through and making sure that that is all you have all that information in case you need to make a claim, and then repricing it, calling different agents, it's time consuming, and a lot of people you know don't really want to have to deal with it. It's not easy, but it's really good. Sometimes you can save hundreds of dollars on your annual policies. So, taking a look at that all the time and going through it is really important and can save you money, and making sure you have the right coverage. So, keeping up on that is really important too. Looking at what credit cards you have and other loans that you may have either currently open or maybe have recently closed, making sure they're all closed out, having a file with that information. Sometimes, if you lose a credit card, but then you're like, oh, I know my wallet got stolen. I had a Visa in there. I'm not sure what it was or what the number was, having a way to go back and track that and find it. Also, just knowing a lot of times people open a card at a store, and maybe they do it just for the discounts or something, and then they forget about it. Well, you want to keep track of all of that information and make sure nothing crazy is happening with it. There's a lot of fraud happening right now. So I know we're going to talk about credit in another class, but we talked briefly about it a little bit tonight. And just keeping on top of all that and just making sure all of everything you have is up to date and there's no suspicious activity. So having that all organized where you can go back and look at things, whether you do an online file of it or a paper file, is really important. Another thing that a lot of people do not like to think about or say they'll do later because it's something it's a little bit daunting is making sure you have a will, that you have a power of attorney in place, and your health directives in place. So you think, what does that have to do with finances? But it has a lot to do with your finances because in the event that you're, say, hospitalized and you need someone to do your financial transactions for you, you want to make sure you have a power of attorney that you trust, that you really feel good about. I'll give an example in my own situation is I have two children. My oldest, my daughter, super smart. She's a physician assistant, great at her job. When it comes to money, she is absolutely horrific. And she would not like that I said that, and this is being recorded, so I hope she never watches this. But my son, on the other hand, a few years younger, and, he's an okay student. He does, he has a great job now. He's very, very responsible with money, careful, saves, no, just really good with money. And so if I didn't have a power of attorney in place, if something, I got sick or couldn't make decisions, probably the oldest child would, the court might appoint them to be the power of attorney. And that wouldn't be the person I want to be the power of attorney, right? I would want it to be my son. Now, the health directive, I definitely would want my daughter because she, knows many people in the medical field and she's very smart at it. So by doing these things early, I get to make these decisions and I have it all in place. I have it in a file. Hopefully, I won't need to use it or I won't need to use it for a long time, but it's all there and it's the people I want to do it. So that's why it's a really good idea to get those things done. And then, of course, having a will, especially if you have children, it's really helpful to have that in place so you know who will care for them, and if your children are older or grown, having a will just make it easier for them when the time comes. So, and if you don't have any children or family, you may decide you want all of your money to go to, or your assets to go to a specific charity or something. So by having a will in place, you get what you want. And that's the whole point of that. You can have things done your way. So taking the time to do that is really important. And then, if you do have children, having all of their information organized is really helpful too. Knowing where birth certificates are and passports or any important papers. I know when my kids were young, every year, this time of year, when Little League was switching to the All Star season, and in order to play All Stars, you had to show a birth certificate to verify age. And I remember it was like running around the house trying to find where was a safe spot. I put the birth certificates in. So if you have that organized and have it in a nice file, keep everything together, it'll save you a lot of time and stress. So those are just some tips to get yourself organized. Take a look at everything you have and making sure everything is up to date and there's nothing fraudulent on them. So that's probably the first step, I think, would be really helpful for you all to do. And maybe not all of this all at once, but just take a little piece of it and start chipping away and making sure that you have this organized. Some people have asked me, where do I keep all this? If you have a, file cabinet that's fire protected in your home, you could keep it there. If you have a safe deposit box, if you're keeping it online, just on your computer, make sure you have a backup stored somewhere, because we all know we get those technical glitches. So the other thing with this is I would let a trusted person know where all this is. So someone in your family, or friend or whoever, just so they know where all this paperwork is. With I was talking to a woman the other day, and her mom had passed away, and her mom had told her over and over that, oh, I have everything set for you. I have a, because she was, getting quite older, and just wanted her daughter to know she was all prepared. And then, but the daughter never asked, where are you keeping that? And then when she did need to find it, she searched everywhere, and couldn't find the paperwork. So, letting someone know is always a good idea too. And remember, none of this is final too. If you need to change things, make adjustments, you can always do that. So, let's see. So the next thing, with financial fitness, is just to be prepared, because we know that things in life happen. Just when you think you're on easy street and everything is going your way, your car breaks down, or you have something pops up in your life that you need some extra money for, or it's going to be a setback of some kind. So just being prepared for those things. And the number one thing I think to help you be really financially fit is having emergency savings. And it may take a while for you to build that savings, which is okay, as long as you're starting on that path. My daughter, the one who's not that great with finances, said to me, Mom, I want to start investing. I want to do. And, I said to her, first thing you have to do before you can start putting money in the markets and, risky things, is just get some money in an account that you can have in case you lose your job, or in case you're switching, jobs, and there's a month or two you're not getting paid, or you need a new apartment and you need a big security deposit, or something like COVID happens. Crazy things pop up all the time. So having that emergency savings is a really great thing. That one of the biggest things that happen to people is if all of a sudden they have a big medical expense, and they may have everything in their budget and they're going fine month to month. They don't have a lot of wiggle room, and then a family member gets sick or something, or has an accident, and there's now thousands of dollars of medical bills that they had no savings to help them with. So emergency savings is really great. Plus, it gives you peace of mind. You have that there. All of a sudden something's not going right at work. You're like, well, if I get laid off, I still have a couple months of savings to help me get through. So if you can build that up so that you have like maybe 6 months of savings to cover uh, your salary or income, that would be really great. But anything is helpful, even if you have 1 month, half a month. Just start slowly building that. A couple little tricks sometimes, so we're not tempted to use that money. If you put it in a different bank than the bank you usually use, and maybe don't get a debit card, so that it's hard for you to access, and you have to like physically drive over there. Then if you need a new pair of shoes that you can't live without, you're not tempted to take it out of that emergency savings. So that's just something that maybe would be helpful if you're not disciplined. And that's one thing that I really tell people all the time is you really have to know yourself. Some people are just so disciplined by nature, they're never going to touch that emergency savings no matter what. Other people are more spontaneous, and if it's there, they might say, I can use it, I'll pay it back. And same with like credit cards. Some people will only use a credit card occasionally. Others might not be able to avoid temptation. So it might not be a good thing for them to have. So you really have to know yourself when you're making these decisions. Are you prepared with insurance? Low cost insurance is renter's insurance. A lot of people don't have it, and it is can come in so handy if your neighbor is cooking something and has a big kitchen fire and the smoke comes through and does a lot of damage to your things in your apartment. You need renter's insurance could cover all of that. Or if your person living above you forgets they put the bathtub running and now you have major water damage, that, your landlord would probably fix the structure. But if your TV got ruined, your laptop, your other things, having that insurance would cover all that. There was just recently a fire at a apartment complex, and the tenants who had renters insurance, it covered all of their personal items, and it helped them covered them temporary lodging. So it's really a really good safety net to have that. If you own a home, the bank will require you to have uh, homeowners insurance. So, but if you end up paying off your mortgage, you should make sure you have your own. It's really it's something good. We hope we never have to use it, but it definitely can save us when something does go wrong. Your will, we already talked about that. Direct deposit is if you don't have it currently, is a great thing to help you be prepared, because if something goes wrong and you have to move, I always think of when there's a big hurricane somewhere. Occasionally in this area, we could have one and have to relocate for temporarily, or a flood. And if we can't get into our employer, or we can't be home to get our mail, knowing our paycheck is always going to be put into our savings account for us. If we're sick and we can't get into work to get our paycheck, the money's already automatically deposited in our account, so we can pay all our bills and not go into any kind of debt. And then online and mobile banking, really a great tool to help you if you can't get to the bank, or you just need to access funds or move funds from one account to another. Mobile banking and online banking is really great and convenient. If you get a check in the mail and you can't get to the bank, you can always deposit it on through your phone, your mobile app. So those are things that are really convenient and help you in the case of a emergency situation. And just having access to your financial resources. So knowing, if I do need to get that, how do I do it, and what will be the penalty? So someone recently needed to get into some of their money they had for save for retirement. They were going to have some penalties, but they knew how to do it. So it really helped them out in the short run. And then, hopefully they can replenish that. So just knowing how to get to things, having good relationships with your bank, just in case you need advice, uh, would be really helpful and help you be prepared for when something might happen. Hopefully nothing does, but it's a great peace of mind to help you sleep better at night, knowing you're prepared. Let's see. Oops. There we go. So this is just another thing we're going to do. We have a whole class. Our next class is on budgeting. But these are some things you could start to do now to get ready for that. And looking through, finding all your wages, and then by that I mean like your pay stubs, taking a look. A lot of times we don't get paper pay stubs anymore. Uh, we have to log in and you can just look at it on your computer, but having the taking a peek at those, making sure they're accurate and right, making sure if you got a raise, they remember to update it. So many things are just automatic. We forget to look. So making sure all of that, making sure you got the correct amount of vacation time, all those things. So looking at all of your income coming in. If you're self-employed, keeping track of that money. If you have public assistance or you have any, maybe you could be getting some of that. Looking into all of those things to maximize your income, including if you have child support, alimony, interest on your accounts and dividends. I was talking with somebody who had a large amount of money, a very large amount in their checking account. And their checking account earns just a teeny weeny a bit of interest. But right now, interest rates are higher. So if they put that money in a money market, they could be earning, a couple $100 a month. So I want $100 a month if I can get it by not doing anything. So by not doing anything and, moving your money into the right places, you could be earning some money. So looking at your Social Security and pensions, we talked about that. If you're entitled to it, sometimes you can collect on things earlier. If that's the case, maybe talking to an advisor and finding out if it's a good idea for you and can help you in the long run. And what are other sources of income that you could look into? We at Liberty have a small business academy, and we have a lot of people who are just doing, working a full-time job, but started a little side business to make some extra money. And one lady started a cookie making business, and she was telling me she cannot even believe how much money the cookie making business is generating for her. She does it for special events for people, and there's a demand. Her product is really good. I tasted it. But it's really a great other source of income for her that's allowing her to do some fun things that she wasn't able to do before. Or maybe you have a really special talent or skill. Maybe you're really knowledgeable on some subject and you could teach for and get paid to do it. So those are really things just to start looking into ways that you can build your income. Expenses, you want to just do a little tracking. We all say, I'm sure you all have the family member or friend that says, I just got paid and I'm totally broke, but I don't know where any my money went. I didn't even buy anything this month and my money's gone. I didn't even spend a penny. But if you start tracking it, you'll see, oh, they went out to dinner 5 times this month, or so seeing where your money's going. Not saying that you have to stop going out to dinner, but at least knowing where you're spending your money and then making sure that's what you want to do. And we'll talk a little bit of that of goal setting, but making sure you know where everything's going. Maybe something, for example, I had an elderly lady who had always had the same cable company for a gazillion years. She never changed it, and she was getting billed, and the price of her monthly service kept going up and up and up. And she never thought to call them. There's new programs out, there was discounts, all sorts of stuff. The cable company wasn't going to call her and say, "Hey, you can pay a lot less money." So she was paying a huge amount of money for her cable when once someone helped her call and got it changed. She saved a couple $100 a month on her cable bill. It was just terrible how much she was spending, but she didn't really know or realize. So looking at what you're spending, can I do something cheaper? Some cell phone plans can be cheaper. So thinking of all those things, but you need to know what you're currently spending in order to, negotiate and make some changes. So recording your expenses, make sure you look at your daily expenses. Are you eating lunch out every day, or are you maybe monthly? Do you have some big bills? And remembering if you have a big annual bill, like maybe your insurance policy, just you pay annually. So how much is that going to be? And then, the difference between fixed, you might not be able to change. If you have a fixed, your rent is fixed every month, but your variable expenses, maybe you can change. Maybe there's something you can do with your electricity. I know some of the the companies will come and do an audit for free and help to save you some money every month. So once you know everything you're spending your money on, thinking, just doing some little thinking about what you're doing with your expenses. What are your needs? Are these things that you absolutely need? You need to pay your rent every month. You need a place to live, right? You need to pay your food bill. You need to pay your auto insurance if you're going to be driving your car. And if you have to go to work, you need to pay your gas for your car. So, what are the things that you absolutely have to pay? And what are the things that you really want, but maybe you could live without? And then you could do a deep dive and think, do I need that or do I want it? And sometimes things that you want. There was one time somebody, Susie Orman, I don't know if you remember her, financial lady guru. She had said she would never ever spend money at Starbucks. She's never gone there, and she would not waste her money on Starbucks when she can make her own cup of coffee. But if Starbucks brings you great joy to go get a latte, and it's the thing that reduces your stress and it's your thing, that's fine. Adjust something else in your budget so that you can get your uh, caramel latte every day. So it's, again, everything kind of goes back to your personal preferences, but you have to do trade offs. And then, looking at your obligations and the debt you owe. If you're obligated to pay something and things get tough, you just can't really ignore them. Thinking, what are some other solutions? I had a young girl I was working with, and she was telling me, I pay all my bills on time except my student loans. I just feel like those are ridiculous, so I'm just not paying them. But I pay everything else. Well, her credit is pretty ruined right now because she wasn't paying those bills. Instead of thinking of ways around that, she could do things to reduce her student loan debt. She could get a deferment. There's different things you could do. If you have a loan with a bank and you're having trouble paying it, talking to them and seeing, can you reduce my interest rate, or could you put me on a different payment schedule? Could I extend my payments? There's things that you could possibly do to help you, but just making sure that you're not ignoring those things if it comes to you're in a tight situation. And then, thinking about, can you find less expensive ways to meet your needs, use less money for things you want, negotiate lower payments or obligations. Maybe there's a different coffee shop where you could get your coffee taste just as good, but it's half price, or, kind of doing your homework and your research and seeing if you can make any changes with that. So another thing to think about, really trying hard not to avoid late fees. I was talking with someone the other day and they said, "Oh, it's not a big deal. I was on vacation, so I didn't pay my credit card. I was just going to make it up the next month." But they got slapped with a big late fee for not paying their credit card on time, and it hurt their credit. So, you want to avoid that. Just set it up ahead of time to get your bill paid before you go on vacation, or set it up online banking so it'll pay automatically while you're on vacation. Um, not trying to pay as little interest you can on unpaid credit card balances. Pay as much as you can. So I know sometimes you have to leave a balance on there, but trying to find lower interest cards that can help save you money. You really want to make sure you don't get negative reports on your credit. Missing one payment can really lower your credit score. And we're going to talk a lot about credit on, I think, class 3, and go into a really deep dive on how to help improve your credit and build your credit and fix some things. So, more to come on that. But if you don't pay some bills for a period of time, you might get your service canceled. But then when you go to get a new service, reinstate it, you have to pay fees and things. So all of those things, if you can avoid those additional charges, and by managing your expenses, the biggest thing it really helps is your stress level, because there's nothing worse than waking up at 3 a.m. And I know we've all had that happen to us. You wake up and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot to pay this, or I have to pay this, and I know I'm not getting paid for another week." All those things can really take a toll on your personal and mental health. So as much as you can get things managed and organized and set up on, automatic bill pay, and have alerts set up on your account. So if your balance gets low, it sends you a notice so that you don't overdraw your accounts, or, have different ways. So really taking advantage of all those things to help manage your expenses can save you a lot of stress and money. So the next thing, that now that we've like kind of gone through, and I know I've talked fast, but a lot of these things will go into a lot deeper as we go through the program in the next up and coming months. We can kind of start to make some kind of little plan to be strategic and see what we really want. So I think one of the biggest things with financial fitness is, what are your goals? What is important to you? And what do you want to do? What then we can figure out what you need to do to get there. So some people, it's really important to own their own home. That's like their main thing. If they can have a home, they'll feel secure, stable. Other people, a lot of younger people now, don't want the obligation of a home. They want to be able to travel, or just to move it on a whim. So that's not a goal for them, but maybe a goal for them is to save enough money to travel to Europe, or to buy a new car. So figuring out what your goals are is very important. So, that takes a little reflection, sitting down, and if the sky was a limit and I was your fairy godmother and you could have anything you want, what would that be? And thinking, writing those things down and thinking of ways you can achieve them. And, really anything is possible. So putting them out there, and then looking for ways to make it happen. So once we define that, next week we're going to create budgets to try to help us get to those goals. We're going to set a timeline, because we know that it's not going to happen overnight. If you want, to have a mansion, you're not going to have that overnight. It might take years and years, but let's set that timeline. Maybe you just want to get all of your credit card or your debt paid off. Well, how can we do that? Like, what would be the best timeline to get that done? So thinking but first you have to really know what you want. And then we can find the hopefully set a plan to get that done. And the last thing with being strategic is really picking your team and the people that can help you. It's really something, you can't do on your own. I mean, some people do, but why do it on your own when you have your bank really can help you with different programs? There's different agencies out there. Having a best friend that you can work with, like vent to, is really going to help you. So there's lots of different people that you can have. Maybe there's a mentor out there, someone who became successful, and you want to pick their brain. How did you do it? What were the steps that you did? So having a team of people who can be your support, can be your help. Your library can be part of your team, because look at all the resources at a library. There's programs, there's books, there's videos, there's so many resources at the library. So that can be a part of your team. So looking at who can be on your team and really using all of those people to help you achieve all of your goals is so important. And, really will help you too with your stress, and or just, enlighten you with different things. It's always so fun. Also part of your team can be, maybe someone you're following on Instagram that's become successful, or you're listening to their weekly podcast and getting all sorts of insight. So thinking who can be on your teams. So those are some things that, really, if this during the next month you want to start to think about really what your goals are going to be. And sometimes you can just do that yourself. Sometimes you need to collaborate with your family members, or maybe your part of your financial goals is to earn more money at work. What are some things you can do? So start talking to your HR. A lot of people are afraid to ask for a raise, and once they do, they get it. It's amazing that really can happen. People go on just going with their normal pay, and then once they say, hey, I've been able to do this, and accomplish this, I really should make more money. And lo and behold, their boss agrees and they get a raise. Doesn't happen all the time, but just, all of those things start thinking about, and then we'll come up with strategies to help you do that. I just threw this slide in quick about credit. We're going over credit in a lot of detail, but if you don't want to wait too long, one thing you can just do while we're waiting to have the credit class is to pull your free credit report and just start looking at it. Annualcreditreport.com is where we recommend you go. It's free. If you want your score, it costs money to get your FICO. I would get your FICO score if you really want to know what that is, if you don't know it already. Otherwise, going to annualcreditreport.com, pulling out your free credit report and just starting to look at it, make sure it all is you. There's no fraud on it, or other family members' information got put on yours by mistake because of the same names. So taking a little look at that, in the next month would be really helpful. Have that ready. And if you have questions, we can talk about that in the credit section, credit report. And that is kind of it. So you have a lot of work to do if you want. And any questions?